the Minerals Commission. We are going to continue our discussion on the various mineral rights and consider the equipment and machinery used for these categories. In last week's edition, we discussed the various mineral rights and procedures in acquiring the licenses as enshrined in the Minerals and Mining Act 2006, Act 703. And today we are privileged, as I said, to have Mr. Hassan Al-Hassan. He's head Mineral Titles Department of the Minerals Commission. Mr. Hassan, welcome once again.
Thank you.
And we are back here to do to look again into another aspect of the minerals industry, and it has to do with, after acquiring the licenses, the kind of equipment you need to do the work that you've asked to be given to do. And so take us through briefly, and we have some pictures, as I'm sure you would speak to, some of the equipment necessary for the stages of prospecting for minerals. So last week we mentioned reconnaissance license. So for that stage, what kind of equipment are we looking at?
Thank you, Tillman. Thank you to all viewers of Breakfast Show of the GTV. Yes, talking about the reconnaissance license last week, we said it is granted for 12 months and you're supposed to do some particular work which includes airborne geophysics, geological mapping, and geochemical cell sampling. So from the pictures, if you see an aircraft with some equipment attached to it, flying over the land, this equipment on the screen is an aircraft with...
It looks like a drone, a bigger drone.
Yes, a drone, but this is an aircraft. This is a drone, yes. Trying to pick up some information on the ground. And
what kind of information?
This is the information that it gives.
Okay.
You see this helicopter. Helicopter can be fitted with this those equipment. They pick up these informations which are interpreted to tell us the type of rocks and structures that are on the ground. For
those of us who don't know, we are seeing red, blue, green, and others. What do they mean?
Yes, this is resistivity, how do you call it, interpretation. So the red are the higher areas that show resistive rocks or resistant rocks, and the blue are the low areas, and the green and yellow are in between. So these actually help us to identify the type of rocks that are in the area. That's for geophysics, airborne geophysics. So this is done during the reconnaissance time, and from these results you're able to tell a lot about where you're actually working with respect to or regards to the rocks in the area. Okay. Then from this is actually a gold catcher. We'll get there, but
okay. So from there we go to a prospecting license.
Yeah, the prospecting license, that's where you need heavy machinery for drilling. That's when you are doing intensive exploration, trying to understand the subsurface, because nobody is in the subsurface to tell you the minerals are actually moving in this direction or moving in this direction. So you need to do a lot of drilling. What you see there is a RC drilling machine. That's reverse circulation drilling machine. Okay. It actually drills to a maximum of about 150 meters. And you take samples at 1 meter intervals to actually test for the goal. What you see now on the screen is the core drilling machine, which is also to take core samples, which helps you understand the rocks and the structures of the subsurface. These are all taken and studied or analyzed to understand what the rocks are, the type of mineralization and style of mineralization that you're actually chasing. What you see now is dump tracks. That's when you get to the mining phase. When you are mining, these tracks are very big. You stand by the tie and you just be somewhere
in the middle.
Yes, in the middle. They are very big. These are the mining phase. These are at the mining phase to when you are constructing roads to get access to the mineral area to mine, to send to the processing plant. We'll come to the gold cutter. This is for small scale.
Okay.
But there is a processing machine. Yes, this is the processing plant where a mine sends all the mined out ore to and processed for the actual gold to be recovered. So these are some of the machineries that you actually find on the mine when you have a mining lease. So from prospecting, when you do detailed investigation and you're able to define and estimate or evaluate what you have and you think it's economically viable, that's when you take it up to the next level we call the mining lease area, where you can mine and process for the gold.
Okay. And how much land do you need to do all this? These look like heavy machinery. So what's the minimum land size you need to do this safely per the requirements?
Yeah, I was saying last week, you asked me what's the size of an acre with respect to a football field. If you say a stadium, you can't compare Accra Sports Stadium to Elwak Stadium. But then the pitches on which they play the football are the same, standard.
Yep.
So an acre is about 3/4 of the football pitch.
Okay, so not a full pitch.
Not a full pitch. An acre is just about 3/4. So when you talk about 25 acres of the land, 25 acres of the land is just about 18 of the football pitches.
The standard pitch. Okay.
That's what we give to small scale miners to mine. But for large scale, if you are doing proper mining for large scale, you have to take up to about 63 square kilometers. And I was telling you a square kilometer is about 248 acres, which has about 186 football pitches fitting into 1 square kilometer.
So that is a giant size of land.
But for small scale, you are given about 18 football pitches to work on.
So depending on what type of what
mineral right that you are given,
you're whether it's small scale or large scale.
The small scale, the maximum size of land we can give is just 25 acres. It's about 18 3/4 of football pitches.
Okay.
But for large scale, you can take up to 63 square kilometers. And I'm telling you that a square kilometer has about 186 pitches. So it's a large area there. So that's how come places like Obuasi are sitting on a very large scale. You go to Takwa, they're all sitting in a very large space.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the equipment that are used, it's the responsibility of the person who asked for the license to ensure that they have the right equipment and that they do what they are supposed to do.
You are the investor. So you apply for the license and the government gives you the license to operate at whichever level, reconnaissance through prospecting to mining.
So is there a check on whether the equipment are up to task before the license is issued, or what happens after the issuing of the license to ensure that these equipment are the right ones and they are not causing more harm to the environment?
When the licenses are given, we go on our normal inspections and monitoring to ensure that you are working within the confines of the law. You don't go beyond.
Okay.
If you go beyond, we need to actually bring you back to live within the confines of the law.
Last week you mentioned that at some point you have to give up part of the land that has been allocated to you, and we've just talked about the maximum and the minimum for the small scale and the large scale mining. At which point do you have to do this, and why is that even necessary at all?
Yeah, when you are prospecting, actually you are investigating, looking out for. So you take the largest, that's 150 square kilometers, 157 square kilometers. But after 3 years, it is assumed that you've been able to, confine yourself to the areas that are actually giving you signatures and indications of mineralization.
Okay.
So therefore, you don't need the whole broad area. So after 3 years, it's assumed that you have confined yourself to a space that you can cut out 50% of the area that you don't need.
But can you go back to it later?
When you shed off, you need about 6 months before you, the person who shed off, can reapply for the area.
Even though originally it's part of what was assigned to you.
Immediately shed off and say you're applying for. There's a space of time. It's specified in the law. In 6 months or 18 months.
Okay.
I have to check.
And The person who applied for the license still owns that portion of land.
The one
because yes.
No, he doesn't own. It goes back to government.
But the person,
and anyone can also apply
ahead of applying for the license, they buy the land that they want to. I think if I remember correctly, what happens there?
They get the mineral interest to work in the area.
Okay. Yes. So once that 50% is shed off, you cannot go back there.
You can't go back there. It goes back to government. So government can decide to give to another investor. But after some number of months, I'll specify, I think 6 months, then you who shed off can reapply for the area. But immediately you shed off,
you've lost rights.
You've lost the right.
That part of
anybody can also apply for.
And there are instances, I presume, where your license could be denied. And what would those be?
Yes, for your licenses to be denied, I think it depends on a lot of factors. You need to provide some information to us at the Minerals Commission to evaluate whether we are capable of doing the work. So the information as we require, if you don't give us all the information, is one thing to tell you we can't give you the license. And when you present to us statements that are false and misleading, it's another point to deny you. Then if failure for you to give us the right information, if we are correcting your errors, bring this, bring that, and you continue to bring us fake things that are not what is expected, we deny you. Then maybe the area you are applying for is encumbered. That one too, we can't give it to you. It has to be denied. And last but not the least, you cannot work in forest reserves. And there is places we call hydrogeologically sensitive areas. That is areas that have water bodies that humans actually depend on.
Mr. Hassan, you brought yourself. We can't work in forest reserves and we can't work near water bodies. So why are we seeing what we are seeing? We are being told that our forests are depleting at an alarming rate, faster than at any other time in history. And our rivers tell their own story that these things are happening. So is the Minerals Commission asleep?
We are not asleep. I can tell you there is a mine. Newmont is working in a forest reserve. Very well regulated. Chiran is working in a forest reserve. Very well regulated. Do you hear anything? So therefore it tells you that there are people working in the forest reserves without the requisite licenses. So therefore there is no requisite
look at some of the sites we are seeing on the screen. Is this a
no, this is a proper small scale mining site.
Okay.
That this is their pit that they mine from. This is a well regulated, and this is how the sluice board from where they take the ore. There's a trommel there. They push it into the trommel. The trommel's sent it through the sluice boards there. This is a typical small-scale mining operation, which is very well regulated. So they have their ponds for the water and everything well regulated without any, problem.
So this is what you want to see. But those who do it on the blind side of the law,
we don't know them. They don't have any licenses with us. We don't know them. And a thief is in a hurry to just take what he wants and run away. So that's how can we see the devastations that you see.
Okay. Is it possible for a license acquired in one person's name to be given to another person or to be used by somebody else?
Yes, but with the consent of the minister. Because you are a third party.
Okay.
We don't know you.
There's a process for that.
Yeah, there's a process.
Okay. What will that entail?
If in case you were the one we gave the license to, and you want to give it to a third party, so you will bring us the third party's company documents, its capability technically, whether they have the technical wherewithal, financial wherewithal, and all the company profile as to what they've been doing in the past. All these papers or documents are brought to us for us to study, to understand whether the third party coming in has what it takes to do what you were doing. If it's not, we deny them. But if they have, we then recommend to the minister that the third party coming in has what it takes. So give it to him.
Right. I think we'll shelve this conversation for next week because every Wednesday we are here in our time with the Minerals Commission. You'd like to make some final comments, so a quick one, if you may, before we wrap, Mr. Hassan.
Yes, we keep on saying illegality is an illegality. If government has not given you a license to work in an area, the commission doesn't know you, because the moment the commission gives a license, all the other government agencies come in, because with a license you need to pick an EPA permit, come back to us to pick an operating permit, and by so doing we are able to regulate your activity. But an illegal operation is an illegal operation. It doesn't have all this thing and it's not monitored. And a thief in a hurry to pick gets to destroy what he's doing in the area. So now the government has to go looking for money to go and rehabilitate areas that have been devastated by some illegal people taking money for their own greedy, how do you call it?
Then surely that should stop. That should stop. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Hassan. Mr. Hassan Al Hassan is the head Mineral Titles Department of the Minerals Commission. We've been talking about the machinery and equipment needed for all the various stages of mining, and Mr. Hassan has been explaining some of those things to us. Next week again, we'll be back with another conversation with the Minerals Commission on the activities, and we hope that you'll find those information.